Thank you, Paul. Our next topic is ISAGO, IATA's Safety Audit for Ground Operations. I'm sorry, it's not our next topic. I know, no. I enjoyed it so much I wanted to hear it one more time. Our final topic for today concerns air cargo. Specifically, how do we speed up the movement of air freight on the ground, not in the air? We have a panel that's going to discuss the issues as well as the solutions. The moderator of our panel is Michael White of Cargo Network Services, CNS, which is an IATA company. Michael, I'd like to invite you and the panel members to come up here on the stage now. Thank you.
Buenos días, damas y caballeros. Mi nombre es Miguel Blanco. No, it's not going to be more Spanish because I work in Miami, so I have to learn a little bit of Spanish working in Miami. So yes, my name is very universal, Miguel Blanco, Michel Blanche, wherever you want to use my name. But as John mentioned, I'm with CNS, and I'm based out of Washington, D.C. I handle most of the cargo issues for IATA in the United States. And we also handle one of the largest CAS operations between airlines and forwarders. So it's a great pleasure to be here today. We're going to talk about the sexy part of cargo being part of the airline business, the sexy business, air cargo. So how many of you are involved with air cargo? Hold up your hands if you're involved with air cargo. Aren't the rest of you involved with air cargo? Do you have a cell phone? You have a computer? You were involved with air cargo. How did it get there? This is why we have what we call the need for speed. And this part of the business we're going to talk about today is that portion that we get it on the air, we move it at almost supersonic speed, but when it gets to the ground, those are where we go subsonic, way down, and sometimes cargo sits a little bit. But we have issues, but we have a great panel today. I want to start on this side, and so would you stand up, and would you stand up? Now, how many of them know where they're from? Everybody in the Netherlands must be at least this tall or higher because there's something about the water. But thank you very much for showing. Everybody I've ever worked with, particularly at KLM, are always this tall. So it's indeed a pleasure to have them here today. But let me start from left, and I'll talk about Gerten Holzmann, who's the managing director of the Dusseldorf Airport in Germany. He is the managing director of the airport and handles approximately 40 airlines. Over 121,000 tons of cargo moved through in 2017, 190 FTEs in physical document handling, head of cargo business development in Cologne at one time, formerly with KLM. He has no experience whatsoever. And next is Eduardo Del Rego. Also, he's from Miami. He's with PayCargo. He's the CEO. And PayCargo is a company that CNS we've been involved with this year in trying to reduce some of the ancillary charges and trying to reduce the processes. But he's had a career also for quite some time in the ocean side of the business. Started with Crowley many years ago, moved into steamship lines, involved with logistics, ports, and over the last few years, he is one of the managing partners and the CEO of PayCargo based in Miami. And then my good friend Lothar Muller. Lothar and I used to work together in what is Cargo IQ, was Cargo 2000. We were both regional directors on the cargo quality side of the things. But Lothar is the director of AvSec and governance for DB Schenker. He's also based in Germany. He spent a whole lifetime all over the world, knows a little bit about cargo, But he's,
I have a cell phone, yeah.
yeah, you have a cell phone?
Yep.
All right. How's your shipment doing on Amazon, or is it Alibaba? No. But no, he's been involved with a lot of things on the securities front and is a wealth of knowledge. And then last but not least, we have Ben Radstack, who's from Schiphol. He's with Air Cargo Netherlands. Ben has studied physics and chemistry, my worst two subjects in high school.
Me too.
That's why I went to business instead. But he has received marketing degrees. He's had 10 years of marketing research consultancy. And in 2003, he became the managing director of Air Cargo Netherlands, whose main goal in this industry association is a smarter way of moving together in the cargo chain in the Netherlands and in general in Schiphol. So welcome to the panel. We're going to start off, though, I wanted to start off just a little bit about the groundwork of where we are today on things. If we take a look at the air cargo business, it's growing dramatically. Your phones, everything you use, e-commerce is in everybody's life. And if you have not ordered online and wondered where your shipment was, you're one of the few. Because my wife loves to buy things online. I like to buy things online, and I want to know where they were. And with some of the new platforms, I want to know, and I want to have it delivered today, not just tomorrow. But in some areas, like I live in the Washington, D.C. area, if I order something by 11 a.m., it's going to be in my office or my home by 5 p.m. Or now, they'll even put it in the trunk of my car for me. So those are the things of the future that we have to live with. But one of the things as you take a look at what Air Cargo is doing is, I want to quote from Brendan Sullivan, who's IATA's head of e-commerce. Is he still here? I saw him walk out. There he is. So I'm going to quote from you. In the e-commerce world, shippers and consumers want transparency on their package, they want predictability of the delivery times, and they want speed. So we're all about speed. So we're going to have a conversation, no PowerPoints for you. It's going to be an actual conversation. And I'm going to talk, and I'm going to ask each one, and I'll start with you. What is the one thing, or your perspective, that why cargo is so slow? What are the issues that are causing it? In some cases, some believe it's not moving fast enough.
It is not one, it is manifold, but first of all, to the audience who are not dealing with air cargo, more than 50% of all air cargo is flown in passenger aircraft. And I think the tendency with the development of e-commerce is only growing. 6 days, air cargo is still on its way, and that is already for 40 years. I started in the air freight business in 1977, and it was 6 days, and today it is still 6 days. And to my humble point of view, it is boiling down to communication, transportation, and we all have all devices. Everything is in our hands, but we are not in a position to make that all stakeholders communicate properly with each other. Sometimes that is out of fear, anxiety. And a main point for us in Düsseldorf, the capital of North Rhine-Westphalia, one of the 16 federal states, is, for instance, the opening hours of the customs. And that is really hampering a lot of things. It sounds silly, but it is really the fact of life, and that is also counting for veterinarian and phyto services. And we are a warehouse handler, so we are not having anything to do at the ramp. That is given over to ramp handlers. And in our case too, and the communication between these parties is very thin. So that is a major part of improvement, which we work on, but it is a very, very difficult thing.
So let's go to Lothar. Lothar is the customer in many cases in different ways, and the user of airport services. Lothar, how do you see it from Schenker's point of view as to what are the things at the airport that slow you down?
Well, in my experience, it's information. Information and information. If the handler at an airport, be it on the export side or import side, if they don't know what workload is coming towards them, be it on the export side, if they don't know which shipments they have to take off my truck as I deliver to the terminal, they are lost in such that they can really start working only once they open the truck and offload it. On the import side, likewise, if they don't know what's on the aircraft arriving from China or wherever it's coming from, then they, again, stumble finding information somewhere in the system or on a piece of paper. And all this is slowing down the process time. But one other aspect also has to be mentioned. Sometimes it's purposely that a shipment is maybe staying for half a day at the airport on the import side. Because as a forwarder, my line of business is consolidation. So if I know that the shipment has arrived at the airport in the morning at 7 o'clock and another arrived at 8 o'clock and I'm expecting another larger shipment to arrive at 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm not sending 3 trucks. I might wait until 11 o'clock until all 3 shipments are there, because otherwise my operation would be far too expensive and the expenses would have to be borne by the customer of the forwarder in that respect. So it's a combination of anything, but the most important aspect, I believe, is the information exchange, timely ahead of the cargo.
So Ben, from your perspective, you know, you're working on a lot of the things
Yeah.
that Lothar just talked about, but what are some of the things you see, particularly at Schiphol, as some of the
Yeah, I
issues?
fully agree that information is key. But the other thing is the complexity of the industry. It's not all about speed, it's also about cost, it's about reliability, it's about temperature control, it's about dangerous goods, it's about security issues. And all of these are leading to a very complex mix in the day-to-day operations, which are hard to digitize, hard to automate, hard to plan. In particular, as all the parties in the chain have their own business perspective and their own bottom line issues they're dealing with. I mean, if you focus on just one type of cargo, like the integrators do, you can have a much faster product, overnight services across the globe or whatever. And we now see that the e-commerce world is trying to grab both. They want the speed of the integrators, but want to pay less than the general cargo user is paying for the capacity. And that makes it even harder to improve the cooperation in the supply chain and improve the processes. And makes it even more important to digitize and have all the information in advance before a shipment arrives, so you can do all the checking, compliance, customs, all those issues before a shipment arrives at the ground handler, whether it's coming from land side for export or out of the air, and also have a better view on the planning on the volumes that are coming to a ground handler, because often, as Lothar said, import shipments arrive in the morning. They're distributed throughout the day, and export is always leaving at the night and the end of the week. So we have huge peaks as well at the ground handlers, while the planes are moving 24/7. So that's also another issue. But I think indeed digitization, information is the key. So happy to fly into to Madrid to inform you about my vision on this.
So Eduardo, your side of things a little bit different because you're on a financial aspect of things,
Correct.
and you've been working a lot in the ocean side of the industry, and just in the last year or so have moved a lot of your product as to what you do in clearing cargo financially. What have you seen from this growth so far in the air industry, particularly in the you started in the U.S. and you have PayCargo Europe as well now. So what do you see that have been some of the issues from your perspective going into this new world of air cargo?
I think what we've seen is when we came into the industry, we came in to solve issues on the maritime side, and we kept saying, well, this is obviously, having come from that background, this is a very backward industry when it comes to technology. Then we stepped into air and realized that
Not so
Eh,
backwards?
the challenges are the same and sometimes even more complex. From our view, not necessarily just from the financial side, I think there is a lack of acceptance of new technology and how that new technologies, which are out there today and are being used, I would say, by the Amazons of the world, how do we take that to cargo and not just B2C, but really B2B? And that is the major challenges we see moving forward.
So we've talked and we've gone around the subject, but a little bit about digitization and moving to artificial intelligence and virtual reality and all of these keywords, the Internet of Things. And every conference I go to, we talk more and more about this. But having listened yesterday in some of the presentations about this need and the challenges and looking at the ramp of the future, what are some of the things we need to look at technology-wise? Where do we need to go, whether it's in the technology side or in how that interfaces with the workforce? What would you say, Gerten, there's some of the challenges that you see?
There is, of course, a great need for novelties, innovation, but please bear in mind that it is all boiling down to a word we never are able to say, and it starts with an M or with a C. To my knowledge and to my point of view, we have the chance to buy and to purchase anything which makes the world a bit better. We all make ourselves our pearls. It is the airline, it is the ground handler, it is the ramp handler, it is the trucker, etc., etc. We all have a little pearl, but we refrain from making a necklace out of it. And I'm a board member for the Cool Chain Association, which is an organization which deals with perishable logistics and with pharma logistics. And because of the fact that the communication with all these stakeholders do not work, and it will flabbergast you, but on a yearly basis, still 13 million, mainly children, die because of the fact that pharmaceuticals do not arrive in the right shape at the destination. And when we talk to perishable logistics, and we are then not talking about e-commerce, but in perishable logistics, 1.3 billion tons of food is tossed in the trash because of the fact that we are not communicating in the proper way. Now, where do you start? That needs investments, IT systems. We are now in the process to purchase a new IT system, which has all the features which could enable a proper communication. But that costs money. Now, I said the word, sorry. And then...
And that's easy to get, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we have, most probably we have the chain together, all stakeholders nicely communicate with each other. And then what are you doing in this digitalization process with transparency? Because if one of the stakeholders is making a mistake, do you chop its heads off? Or do you say, no, we have a problem and we go and we make it better? So we iterate and make the product better. That is absolutely a huge thing. And when we compare it in the Düsseldorf situation with the ramp handling people, 2 in total, and the communication which is missing there, it's absolutely ridiculous.
Ben, take a look on one of the things. I know you have a community system that you're working through and communication network. How has that helped on passing data on between different parties within the airport community? And where do you see things still need to go on this whole communication challenge?
Yeah, communication system, cargo communication systems such as Cargonaut at Schiphol, but others in the world as well. They make it easier to communicate, to send EDI messaging or XML messaging between parties. So that indeed does help. But as long as the systems of the individual players are still based upon the old legacy of shifting paperwork and checking things after the flight, administrative things, financial things. That's why pay cargo is an interesting development. Then you still run your information after the fact, and I think the key thing is to have all the information in advance of the event for proper compliance, for proper planning, but perhaps also for better finance. I mean, if you have a more transaction-based financial system where you deliver the goods and immediately it's deducted from your account, and the trucker is paid as soon as he's delivered to the ground handler, and all of that in a transaction-based, per shipment-based way, instead of a monthly invoice afterwards, with all the issues related to late payment and things like that. That may be a way to cover the cost and to recoup the cost of new information systems which are capable of doing just that, instead of all the old legacy we still carry on in this industry.
So Eduardo, one of the things you've had the challenge now, and I know we have worked with you guys, that has been all these legacy systems of different airlines and different systems, but this is really no different than what you probably found in the ocean side of things. How do you see it, looking at programming, because you're programming directly with companies, how's that worked, and what makes it easier for a company like you guys to go in and be able to work quicker with airlines and the forwarding community?
Well, I would say first, thank you to Ben, because basically this is what we're trying to do in the industry. If you look at our industry, especially Europe, to a lesser extent in Asia, not at all in the US, if it's a credit industry in which the settlements are done after the cargo's already moved. So from our side, what we're coming in with is a system where the settlement is done prior to the cargo being moved. The information is moving to the payers, the forwarders that are picking up the cargo, and prior to the actual cargo being picked up. So the settlement or the discrepancies are solved at that stage, not necessarily 30 days later or 60 days later or 90 days later. All I can say is that from our side, we view that flow of information and the ability to solve these issues before they become a problem, where you're digging for information that's already past and gone, and the history and the story is behind you. You have it in front of you as you're moving the cargo. This is what we did in the maritime side. This is what we're doing in North America with CNS and now IATA worldwide. And it's a challenge because you have the legacy systems. More on the maritime side, every major steamship line took it upon themselves to build their own unique system on different platforms, different softwares. So the solution, as we see it, is moving forward, is really the API. I mean, that's what's going to solve it for the payer side, so we connect with the major payers and their financial systems, which many of them are also built internally, legacy, and then with the airlines the same. And that integration is the key to be able to integrate with these systems. And it takes a new dynamic software. Won't go into that part of it. It's pretty boring, at least from my side, from a business side. But basically the connection is what you're looking for. And that's what we've been able to do, is connect through the APIs with the payers and the vendors, including legacy systems. Those, they won't go away.
So Lothar, you're a member of the board of Cargo IQ as a data quality aspect. How do we get more, this whole issue of transparency, whether the customer wants it, the actual buyer and the seller want to see where their cargo is. How does Cargo IQ help us to improve this process of sending information between the parties in the chain?
Well, Cargo IQ is not the organization helping to overcome technical challenges, but what we are very much focusing on is the quality of the data. It's in computer technology, the old system or the old principle, garbage in, garbage out, still prevails. And I have to admit, even in my own company, which is Schenker, we have an older IT system which allows the operator to enter NYC for New York Airport. Does not exist. It's either JFK or LGW or whatever in the world. So these are standards which need to be complied with. Otherwise, you have garbage out at the end of the day. That's where it starts from the operational point of view. And that's where Cargo IQ definitely is very much focusing on to enhance the data quality within the air cargo industry. And that's the basis. If we don't get that straight, then computer never can talk to computer. They always explode at one point of time.
And to any of you, I mean, I was on a workshop yesterday, and they were talking about the still the utilization of paperwork on aircraft handling. You're making sure and timing, the loading of the aircraft and unloading of the aircraft, and the whole processes is that as a ground handler, they get paid. Is there that number, and it's almost like a quality aspect of things? Are there anything like you see that in your measurement of your customers that actually measure things and toward your payment? Is that quality aspect built into those sort of things? And are they still on paper?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
We still, I think, we fly 11 747 freighters with paper through the air. And that is still the situation. We have clients who have, not all, but they have quality measurement systems. And if we do not adhere to a certain standard, we get not paid. So it's absolutely an issue that quality must be measured. The thing is, how and do you make a system which can also communicate, for instance, with other systems? Because the interfaces, I'm not an IT guy, but it is absolutely dodgy when we talk about connecting systems with each other. So, yeah, we have to do all to make it better. But the question is still, how? And I am honest, I do not have the answer right now.
So Lothar, we were talking last night about messaging types. Real exciting talk here in the bar. But but we were talking about XML and CargoImp and all these messaging. And then we have all these new networks like Amazon and Google are coming out with their own type of messaging and trying to bring buyers there. How do you see the future of connectivity in these new formation of languages and how we're talking to each other? Because in the past we've been going to centers of translators and information, but it seems the people with the A's out there in the forefront, the Amazons and the Alibaba, and they're creating a whole new world. How do you see the aspect of using that information that we're using of shipping of cargo in the future?
First of all, I should report back the longer the evening went, the easier it was to discuss these things.
And we solved the world peace.
No, but we have to keep one thing in mind. The Amazons, Googles, and so on, I don't take them as a challenge. They are leading the way to a new kind of communication. And the old way of I'm sending a message and the carrier is receiving it, hopefully, it's probably a thing of the past. What Ben has with Cargonaut in Amsterdam is certainly one way in the right direction to have these community systems. But from my understanding and my purpose, I'm representing a globally operating company, and if I have to log in and connect to, I don't know what the end stadium will be, let's say it's 153 different community systems, that does not solve my problems. then we again have these pearls and the necklace effect. We certainly will go in the direction of what IATA is promoting now as one portal, or something similar when it's not coming from IATA, maybe from an outside source. But this kind of technology is, in my opinion, the way forward. Unfortunately, it's not available tomorrow, and I cannot, even next week, I cannot go into an IT store and buy it off the shelf. This is a development, and I guess as we walk along, more requirements coming into this one portal thing, which none of us really has thought about it. Payment, for example, in my opinion, is not part of the one project yet. Nevertheless, it has to be covered in one way or the other. Amazons and Alibabas and so on, they are having an integrated system. For them, it's much easier. We have to think along the transportation chain. There are so many stakeholders, and everyone has their job. They have their thing to do, but without them, we also couldn't operate. So it's not a vicious circle, but it's a development circle where we, as an industry, just have to go through.
Any thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I think Lotte is right. It's easier for an Amazon to start as an e-commerce shop, like it was much easier for DHL and the likes of DHL to start as a fast parcel delivery company, to stay fast or to stay integrated as Amazon is. It's not just about messaging through the community systems. It's not just about the data and the standards of the data themselves. I mean, IATA is doing a new project, the One Record data model, where they clearly define all pieces of information that someone may need to ship something across the globe. It's also about real-time connecting these things. The old way of working is like sending a message and waiting for someone to reply. That's not going to work anymore. It has to be a real-time connection to a system which immediately checks whether someone is able to pay something or able to carry something or able to handle, whether customs is clearing the goods instantly. And if you don't have all these real-time response capabilities with all parties, it's not going to work as Amazon is working today, or Alibaba, or whatsoever.
One of the aspects we have going right now, and we have some challenges in air cargo, is the safety and security aspect of things. Lithium batteries being shipped on aircraft improperly, the shipment requirements now of governments requiring advanced cargo data of the shipper and consignee information. And so we have more challenges with acceptance of cargo, ensuring we're getting everything done, and governments are wanting more and more data in advance of it being boarded on the aircraft. So June 12th, if you're not aware, June 12th, the US law goes into final effect that all cargo going in the United States has to have data of the shipment before it is boarded and transported on the aircraft before its final destination of the United States. Canada, UK, EU, Japan, and others are now following suit. So this is putting a challenge of providing information further in advance and more transparency in some cases. What do you see the challenge? I mean, Lothar, you're involved with aviation security. What are you seeing as some of the challenges on that aspect of things? And do you see that's going to slow down cargo, or maybe it will go just the opposite?
In my opinion, the traditional forwarder, airline, and ground handler in between on either side business model is well prepared and covered for that. The real challenge comes into when private individuals somewhere in a small town and I'm not hitting on that, but just as an example, in a small town somewhere in deep China is sending a shipment, has sold a shipment on their online shop, and they are sending it via the postal service, via whomever, to another private person at destination. Very often these private individuals are not aware of legal requirements when it comes to aviation security, when it comes to dangerous goods, lithium battery, just for example. And that's an education cycle they have to go through in order to be in a fair environment, whereas from the manufacturer point of view, handing it over to forwarder, to the trucking company, these are all professionals who have years of experience. They have trained individuals. Again, IATA has been leading the way with dangerous goods regulation. We know what we have to pay attention to, but if we don't know who packed a certain package and it's somewhere in the system, I rather keep it behind and don't send it out instead of putting it on an aircraft and then hope that it will come out on the other side. And God forbid, but maybe my family is on the same aircraft in the, somewhere in the seat, and it would develop a problem. And that's what the industry has to deal with, definitely.
Jordan?
Yeah, screening. It's a puzzle for me because where we are located, it is close to the Dutch border. When we talk about the RAS system, which is common in France and in the Benelux, that means that the lorry is completely checked on molecules. The molecules are given to the dog, and then it's ready, which is not, they tried to start it in Germany as well, but the authorities do not accept it. And it's a wish from my side that screening, to my knowledge, is only 100% check when you screen the cargo at the airport where it is going to fly. Now, that is not the case. Lothar knows that very well, of course, in Germany. We are having a myriad of small truckers and small enterprises, companies who are doing the screening, and then it is all collected and then it is finally brought to the airport. On top of it, and that is something for the environment, we see that a lot of cargo is firstly towed to Amsterdam, is made secure, and then it comes back. Now, children are now standing in line every Friday for a better climate. Now, what do we do with all these CO2 emissions? I mean, it's weird. And as I said, it would, for me, be a case for the regulators, and that is not only a German case, but a European case in Brussels, that my wish would be to screen cargo at the place where you are going to uplift it.
Any challenges, Ben, you think Schiphol is going to have on
Well,
the
because of the volumes we have, we developed a pretty efficient screening technology companies which indeed screen cargo that's just coming to Amsterdam to get screened. I wouldn't do it. It doesn't make sense to me. But if there's a huge difference in the cost of screening, perhaps it's feasible to do it. But it shouldn't be like that. On the other hand, we shouldn't think that screening is the solution for everything. We need this three-layered approach with which starts at the validation of companies who are reliable, who are professional, who are customs-wise, security-wise, safety-wise are doing a good job and perceive a low risk on their cargo. Then we have to have information on checking who's sending what to whom, and if there's any reliable parties in the whole chain. If they're all reliable, then perhaps the risk is much lower than if they're unknown, unexperienced, or from specific countries. And then the third layer is the actual technology screening, whether it's X-ray or dogs or a combination of dogs or molecules or new technologies, MRE, CT scanning. There are a whole lot of things being developed. You can't do everything physically at an airport. That's not doable.
We only have just a couple minutes left, but I did want to talk about one thing, and that's about people. And we heard about the challenges on the ramp. We have the same challenges in ground handling facilities and the future of the workforce in air cargo. And we've talked about this at other conferences this year. But just an aspect, I have to keep it kind of short, but what are the kind of things that you see where the people of the future are going to be coming from, Gers?
In our place in Germany, the labor market is due to the very good economic activities is empty. So we have a problem to find the proper people. And to make it not that long, one of the issues is, and please don't think that I'm working for the union or something like that, but we have to pay these people a certain amount of money, which is not that much. And what we see is that these people cannot afford themselves affordable livings anymore in a city like Düsseldorf or the surroundings. So they have to commute 60, 70 kilometers one way to find affordable livings. And that is a major problem.
Eduardo, we were in Miami just a few weeks ago, and we had the provost for the Florida International University, and we talked about education. From your aspect and PayCargo's, what are you guys working with FIU, I know in particular?
So we partner with a local university, Florida International. I say local, it's the 4th largest university in the United States. And part of what we've done with them is to help create what is the Ryder Institute for Logistics. As an industry, we do not really focus and invest in the future, which is the students coming out of the universities and some that won't come out of the universities, but creating programs in the university that makes our industry exciting. It shows them that it's not just, I don't want to say moving paper, because from our side we want to get away from moving paper, but an input system or something of that nature. And for them to have a full grasp of what the industry is all about, not just their immediate function, we believe is significant. And that's why we've gone to partner with Florida International along with others to build a program that within a year can be done even through the internet online, which most of their students are heading in that direction, that basically gives the future entries into our industry a broader view of what the industry is all about, and hopefully keeps them in the industry, because I always say we've never been accused of paying the highest salaries, unfortunately. So that is the challenge.
So we're actually over time, but I just want to start with Ben. If you look 5 years from now, what will it look like? What will be the cargo of the future in a couple of sentences? I'll make that real hard for you.
Yeah, 5 years. When I started in this business 15 years ago, we talked about e-freight already in 2005 or even before that, and it took so long to reach a level where we are today, which is halfway or something. I hope we're done in 5 years on this digitization process, and that most of the paperwork will have been gone and replaced by innovative smart contract-like systems. I mean, if something happens, and the system should tell you what should happen next, and whoever is involved. But that probably perhaps a proof of concept of those systems in 5 years. That would be nice.
Lothar, what do you think? 5 years?
Well, our industry is very slow when it comes to adopting new technologies, etc. Two things always push us as an industry, which is either the customer demand or legislation. Take, for example, ACAS. You mentioned it before. With ACAS, Advanced Cargo Information, there's a computer talking to a computer. And this is according to a certain standard. And if we don't adhere to this standard, we are out of the USA business. Brazil is going one step further. They want to have XML technology, nothing else. XML, they are not going on cargo messaging standards anymore, in case that means something to you. It's a very old system. Even IATA has put it to rest already. Point is, when legislation becomes more demanding in respect of automated information exchange, then the industry will move forward in a much quicker pace. And I can't wait for this to happen.
So I want to wrap it up there, and we're out of time. I know you probably have more, and we could talk for a long time, but I want to, let's give the panel a hand. If I can just end one thing. The amateurs discuss tactics. The professionals discuss logistics. Napoleon Bonaparte. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, thank you to you and all the panel for that very interesting discussion. I had a quick chat at my table with Joseph Seiden, and he mentioned that hearing what you said reminded him of what we said about ramp of the future, that what we maybe need is a warehouse of the future, and really apply, because a lot of the things you said echo what we've talked about on the ramp, about advanced information, digitization, linking up, connecting. It all seems to be very much in alignment, and so this has been a very, very good discussion. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Our pleasure.
So, you want to just sit tight for a second? I'm going to talk for just a minute here because we need to look at what else we're going to be doing today. Starting right after the break at 11 o'clock, we have workshop sessions, the smaller breakout sessions in Room Paris, Room Toulouse, and upstairs on the mezzanine in Makata. You need to refer to your pocket guide or the app, the networking tool, to find out exactly what topics are where and when. At noon, we have a special, one of our workshop luncheons that's on changing GSE and vehicle driver behavior to unlock latent profitability, sponsored by RTI-TB Airside, and it's in the Bond Room, which is kind of on the corridor off to the side. For everybody else, we'll have lunch available in the exhibition room. Before 3 o'clock today, be sure that you vote in the Innovator competition.